You could skip this ad, but don't skip the part that can help you get the job done. At Granger, we're here for you with supplies and solutions for every industry. Call, click, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Tree trimming is not for amateurs. Trust the professionals at Tackett's Tree Service. Family owned and operated since 1984. Tackett's does it all. Tree trimming and removal, plus stump removal.
Tuesday, young sir.
You were having to do a power nap a little bit ago?
Man, just a little power nap to recharge the batteries, but we're ready to rock. We're ready to roll.
The batteries
ready to
are
do
charged?
It. Yes, do it. Let's do it.
Dude,
Let's do
all
it.
you do is work a couple hours a day doing this radio show. What are you talking about? You don't do anything during the day. You talk sports for a couple hours and
Just
catch
go
some
home.
Z.
Hang out, watch sports all day. I wish
Aye.
it was that easy.
So do I. So do I, nonetheless. So I was home most of the day, adulting. You got roof issues,
Ugh.
and you have HVAC issues. You got to get a whole new HVAC. Oh yeah. But luckily, we work in this thing called radio, and we make so much money that I might buy 2 new HVAC systems. One for upstairs, one for downstairs. Maybe one for the outside, just for shoots and gigs. I'm just saying.
Well, we do have a microphone right in front of our face. So if there's any HVAC companies or roofers out there that want to work with my guy Kenner, hit us up.
I no free advertising for this group that I'm working with right now, but they're doing a fantastic job. So we'll see. Looking for the correct choice out there.
Exactly.
As far as that's concerned.
Come in with a good estimate. You may have to switch parties.
Nonetheless. I tell you what, though, there's a guy that might be switching teams after this upcoming season. How about that transition right there? Look, this T. Higgins thing, I feel like we've been talking about this T. Higgins drama for quite some time. You're probably saying it's not really drama. It's not drama, maybe not necessarily a distraction, but it could potentially, for all the reasons that you've talked about, lead to issues with a team that has kind of had some slow starts during the Joe Burrow era. All good reasons why there's been slow starts. I mean, you're not 100% heading into the season. You're trying to play catch up. Zach Taylor, through no fault of his own, is trying to find the right way to navigate through the NFL preseason. I don't blame one coach who doesn't want to play his starters during preseason games, but I appreciate the aggressiveness of the Andy Reids of the world and others who do play their starters during preseason games, because it's going to take a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow going down in a preseason game for people to say, yeah, we probably should be playing starters in preseason. But then you watch teams like the Bengals and some of these other traditionally slower starting teams in, September, and you're like, well, maybe they should be playing more of their starters. Now, technically the Chiefs have been a little slow starting as well, but regardless of all of the reasons that the Bengals have had distractions or have at least had a slow start to the season in the month of September over the last 3 years, injuries have always been a part of that. And the injuries have led to, obviously them not being able to get in any kind of rhythm heading into the season. And as we sit here in May, there are a couple things happening that could potentially lead to the Bengals not having that rhythm, if you will, heading into the season. Okay. I think that the team is stressed? Do I think that Joe Burrow and company is they're shaking in fear of T. Higgins not reporting to practice and all this stuff? Not right now. Not right now. They know what's going on. Joe Burrow's talked about it. He's brought up the fact that, it's a business and he has to take care of his business the way Joe Burrow had to take care of his, the way Jamar Chase is going to take care of his, even though he did it incorrectly and looked kind of foolish doing it. Trey Hendrickson trying to find a way to take care of his business. All right, Joe Mixon had to take care of his business. He took a pay cut to stay in Cincinnati. It was either get cut or take a pay cut. That was him handling his business. There's a business side to all of this. I don't think we're at the point where this T. Higgins noise, if you will, is become a distraction for this team. But the noise that will come of it is something that you have always talked about. We see it every year, every team, every time that there's an athlete that is doing the holdout routine where they're not reporting to practice, they're not in their best game shape heading into the season, they're vulnerable to something that has always impacted the Bengals early on, which is injuries. T. Higgins, don't think it's a big deal right now, but it could have an impact on the start of the season, something that has been a traditionally slow start for this franchise in recent years.
Absolutely. One of my biggest things is, winning cures all. So let's just say T. Higgins doesn't show up until, August or 2 weeks before, game of the season. If they win the 2 regular season games or go 3-0 or something like that, it's not going to be talked about. But if they go or start 0-3 or 1-2, it's going to be the hot button issue. It's all about wins and losses. Are you able to produce on the field? My question for you, though, and I don't really mean to derail this, but the quote unquote off-season issues that the Cincinnati Bengals are dealing with versus the off-season issues that the Kansas City Chiefs are dealing with, from Rashid Rice and the speeding, their kicker speaking at college commencements and saying some things about the LBGT plus community and saying women should be homemakers, to the Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift stuff going on. Which off-season would you rather your team be dealing with right now?
I would rather be dealing with Cincinnati with the Bengals because that's the business side to it. There's not a whole lot of business stuff happening right now when you look at this with the Kansas City Chiefs. There's just a lot of noise. You're talking about their kicker. You're talking about Taylor Swift. I mean, there was talks of the NFL actually having to put this all together around her concert schedule to try to make sure that she could be present to as many Chiefs games as possible. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. There's been no official Adam Schefter coming out and reporting that. But to me, the Bengals offseason is your traditional Super Bowl contender off-season noise, if you will. These are good problems to have.
Right.
When you have all these good players and you don't have enough money to keep them all happy, that's not the Bengals being cheap. And I'm nauseous right now having to say these things about the Cincinnati Bengals. But I don't blame the Bengals for this T. Higgins thing. I don't blame the Bengals for the Hendrickson thing. Initially, I was like, oh, here we go, typical Bengals. But no, when you start to really look into the Hendrickson thing, it's like you can't. You signed that contract, you negotiated that contract, and a year later you're upset about that contract. Like, and who knows? It looks like maybe all of a sudden he's had a change of heart. Maybe the Bengals have talked to him off to the side, and maybe they'll make good by him at some point. Who knows? But the bottom line is, in a long-winded answer to your simple question, the Cincinnati Bengals, I'd much rather have their off season because right now Joe Burrow's getting healthy and he's out there throwing the ball.
New heritage,
yeah. Jamar Chase, he's healthy. Knock on wood, as of right now. Hendrickson, despite the trade request at that point in time, he's practicing, he's showing up, he's saying all the right things. I think the Cincinnati Bengals, it's a loud, quiet, normal offseason for a Super Bowl contending team. You're not dealing with a major pop star. You're not dealing with your kicker. You're not dealing with, of course, all the the off the field allegations and the all that stuff. So yeah, the Bengals easily.
Yeah, 100%. Another question I have for you: when is the last time a superstar player has got injured during the preseason game and missed basically an entire season? Can you think of somebody in recent memory?
I cannot think of one. I mean, hell, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt on the very first drop back of week 1 of the regular season. That's as close to preseason as you can get right now. I can't think of one, but that's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, well, technically, no, this isn't you're talking superstar. What was it? Joseph Asai, who there was a lot of anticipation for his debut with the Bengals. I was a fan of that draft pick for them. He sacks Tom Brady on that first preseason play or whatever, and then ends up being out for the season after that. I think that was Asai. But either way, like that, but not like a superstar. Like we didn't lose a quarterback or a big name wide receiver. Now, maybe we're missing an obvious one. I just can't think of one off the top of my head.
The only one that I could think of is Mike Vick, and that was probably in 2005.
So you got to go back almost 2 decades.
Where he broke his leg and he missed 13 games. That's the only one that comes to mind. Help us out in the chat. Can you think of anybody that's missed, a superstar player that's missed majority or all this season because of an injury during the preseason game? I know a lot of guys go down in preseason practice. I mean, shoot, everything that happened with Joe Burrow just started in preseason with the calf and then moving on to the wrist and everything like that. But in the actual preseason game, I really can only think of Michael Vick.
Yeah. So again, we are live in the Chatterbox Sports on YouTube in the chat. If you want to chime in, I can't think of a significant, we're kind of overlapping topics here, but no, at the same time, like we talked earlier about all the reasons that have led to slow starts. We don't know. There's no scientific proof that teams who sit on their starters, that's exactly why you jump out to a slow start as far as that's concerned. But I would much rather my team be cautious with their starters than not. But at the same time, I would also be pissed if my team misses the playoff by a game because of slow September starts. But I don't think that's what I don't think it helps. I don't think the Bengals slow starts. I don't think not playing starters in preseason. I don't think that helps. But again, much rather have my starters be ready to rock, not having an injury in a preseason game. Now, Joe Burrow's stuff has happened preseason technically, but I mean, everything, this is May's preseason. This is before the season, right? When's preseason technically start? Isn't preseason still the end of last season? I mean, technically right now, the month of May.
Anything that isn't week 1 through 18 is preseason. Yeah, that's a good point. And as always, we're completely on a different side. I want my starters out there, not playing the entire game, but I want real reps, man. I want guys to go out there and practice like they're going to play in the real game. And the closest thing that you get to a real game is a preseason game. So I don't mind when teams go out there and play their starters. Granted, I mean, shoot, if Patrick Mahomes is going to be out there, you better have your starting offensive line out there. You don't want no rookie backup tackle out there protecting his blind side from another rookie trying to make a splash play, trying to make the roster, and he, you know what I'm saying, injures your quarterback in that situation. So you want to have your best guys out there at the same time. So I really don't mind teams, going forward during the preseason so they can quote unquote hit the ground running. Now that has been seen to different levels of results. Back when the Chiefs used to do it, they used to hit the ground running. Last year, the Steelers did it. They stunk up the joint. So like you said, there's no clear science or clear evidence to say that, hey, if you play your starters 50% of the snaps in preseason, that means you're going to win more games. There is no science to it. I guess it's just a matter of preference.
I also have a hard time believing that the one drive you play in preseason at half speed, just handing the ball off and maybe, all right, run deep and I'll lob it to you if you're open. If not, I'll throw it out of bounds and we make our way to the sideline and then we're done for the game. I don't know if that, like, to me, it's all about what you're doing in practice too.
Yeah.
Again, we veered away from the T. Higgins conversation, but the thing is, nothing's really changed. Is anyone shocked by the T. Higgins stuff?
No.
I'm not.
No.
I'm not. And I actually don't think this is one of the rare occasions where I don't think that there's a baby face and a villain. I don't think that there's a heel and you know what I mean? I don't think there's a bad guy. I don't think there's a good guy in this situation. The Bengals are doing what's best for them. They know they just paid Joe Burrow a ton of money. Okay. They know they're going to pay Jamar Chase a lot of money. There's just, no matter how hard you try to squeeze T. Higgins in, the puzzle piece will not fit. And it's not that they don't want him. He makes them better. There's no doubt about it. But it makes absolutely zero sense for the Cincinnati Bengals to try to work on an extension that they know is not going to help them. On the field, he'll help them, but it's not going to help them with Jamar Chase. Now, maybe the Bengals all of a sudden throw everybody off and they're like, okay, we're going to sign T. Higgins to a major deal because he's going to be significantly cheaper than Jamar Chase, who's basically already said he's sitting back waiting for Justin Jefferson to reset the market because that's not what Jamar Chase is going to get paid. That's where the negotiation is going to start.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where I've said this before and I got a ton of heat for it. I didn't think it was that hot of a take. It's just good business to me. If T. Higgins is the number one receiver that everyone says he is, Jamar Chase is clearly better, no doubt about it. But if you can get T at 20 to 23, and it'll be more than 20, don't get me wrong. You get him at 23, 25 mil, or you're going to have to pay 35 mil a year to Jamar Chase. I think it makes way more business sense to have T. Higgins. If Joe Burrow's as good as you guys say he is, does he need Jamar Chase? He wants Jamar Chase. Patrick Mahomes didn't need Tyreek Hill. He wanted Tyreek Hill. They moved on from Tyreek Hill. They've won 2 straight Super Bowls without Tyreek Hill. But I'm sure he would want Tyreek Hill. Don't get me wrong. Like, he would want him. Joe Burrow wants T. Higgins. He wants Jamar Chase, but I'm not saying he doesn't need them. He wants them. He needs one of the two. All right. Because Patrick Mahomes, as we've talked about in the past, he didn't need Tyreek Hill, but he needed obviously a playmaker, and he has that in his tight end. Well, the Bengals don't value the tight end position the way other teams do. So one of those two is going to stay. T. Higgins makes the most business sense, but we all know it's going to be Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is not a part of this big picture. So it's, as long as both of them can understand that heading into this season, we're going all in for a Super Bowl. We're shipping you off elsewhere. You're making your way. You're going to get to pick whatever team you want to go to after this season while getting one more year with Joe Burrow. To me, it's a win-win for everybody. You could make the argument, though, the Bengals missing out on an opportunity to stack up on, some draft picks, which is going to be key when you're a team that's paying so much money to players. But that's a problem for another day.
Hypothetical, then, if they were to trade Jamar Chase, what would be?
Tyreek Hill. What was that? That was a stupid return that he got, right? Not stupid like in a bad way. I mean, it was a hell of a. Is exactly what you anticipated. But Jamar Chase have the same value trade market as a Tyreek Hill. Jamar Chase is really good. Don't relax, folks. I'm not questioning. I'm just saying with Jamar Chase, teams would line up for him. No freaking doubt about it. I'm not even debating that. But nonetheless, you looking that up?
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill. It was a lot of firsts. It was a lot of picks. Nonetheless, but I mean, it had to be worth it to the Chiefs to do it, and it's worked out. I mean, a lot of the players that they've been able to acquire to help keep this Super Bowl roster intact came from that Tyreek Hill trade.
Right.
So
we'll get it after the break.
All right. Kenner and Cab, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. No, I don't have a problem with T. Higgins using the leverage that he has right now. I mean, right now, technically, he can't even show up. He's not even signed. He hasn't even signed the deal. I think they have to like July 15th or something like that, or June 15th. It's one of those two dates. This is not a problem. This is not a distraction. Kev made a great point. I didn't even think about that. Would you rather have the Bengals off season? Right now, everyone's trying to depict it as, oh my gosh, there's chaos there.
Right.
You have Trey Hendry who wants out. You have T. Higgins who wants out. Those are just
Football
That's just
things.
football. That's business. Look at the Chiefs. You have your pop star distraction and Taylor Swift. Okay, the Swifties and all this stuff. You also have your kicker who's gone viral for what he said over the weekend. You also have legal issues with your star wide receiver who does not shed a light on T. Higgins or Jamar Chase at that point. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is he worth the noise? I don't know, but we'll pick up with this conversation when we come back. We have a lot to dive into. We'll get into some NBA stuff coming up around the corner. The Reds blame game. I had a chance to listen to Reed and some of the guys from Chatterbox earlier today on Off the Bench. Nick Krall versus David Bell in the blame game. Who holds more weight? Who should be held more responsible for the Red struggles this season? We have that coming up around the corner. We got a lot. JJ Redick is being drooled over by the Los Angeles Lakers, according to Shams and a couple reports. So we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit as well. Kenner and Cab 14. Oh, yeah, and Ohtani.
Oh, yeah.
There's another story that came out about a former Angels player that does link right back to Ohtani, and I have no clue how this is still not being talked about. Just like yesterday, I have no clue how people aren't talking about the Connor Stallions on the Central Michigan sideline stealing signs from a Big Ten opponent, how that's just kind of been brushed under the rug a little bit. Yeah, we got a busy show today.
Oh, yeah, we still got to talk about Scott Schefter, right?
Yeah, you weren't on the air for that one.
No. So
that was one of the wildest sports stories out there, nonetheless. Kenner and Cab, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We'll be right back. If you want to give the show a call, you could do so, by the way. 937-518-1410. 937-518-1410. That's the hotline. Give us a call. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We welcome you back. We're live on the Chatterbox Sports Network, 1410 Wing AM, of course, the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, the ESPN Dayton channel, the iHeartRadio app. The list goes on and on and on. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Tuesday. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome. Segment number 2.
What up, though? What up?
We opened up the show, of course, T. Higgins. Everyone making such a big deal about that outside of the Cincinnati area. Everyone's looking to Bengals hater Kinner to spin it into something. I'm not there yet. Nothing to spin it into. Look, bottom line is $21.5 million guaranteed.
Right.
We know how this is going to go. Like, unless he's the first human being in the history of the world to say, you know what, keep your $21 million. I'm just going to sit this one out because you're not trading me. No. Look, the pros outweigh the cons. The cons are you risk a big-time injury without long-term security. But the pros are you got $21.5 million. The pros are you're, a main piece on a Super Bowl contending roster. The pros are you're, going to be catching passes from Joe Burrow, right? You're a Super Bowl contender. The pros totally outweigh the cons when it comes to this particular situation. However, there will be that athlete, that some point situation, and it'll change the landscape of football moving forward. This is all preemptive stuff. But at some point, it's going to be we're not risking anything at all ever again. Like we saw, we came close with Dak. Dak had that big leg injury in that year of that basically the playing on the franchise tag, and everyone was like, "See, that's exactly what." Now it all worked out. He came back. He got paid. He returned to form by Dak standards, of course. Very, very good. Not elite. Still hard to find Dak level quarterbacks in there. But this T. Higgins thing, I don't think it's a story. If we were doing one of them generic topics of story, not story. T. Higgins contract negotiations with the Bengals. Story, not story.
Not a story.
Not a story.
Not a story, because ultimately he's going to show up. He's going to show up not only because he has that contract guaranteed for that $20 million, but, they have a real legit chance of winning the Super Bowl. And guess what? If Joe Brady, if Joe Burrow
you
is
sound
healthy,
like a real Bengals fan now.
If he's healthy, he's going to put up crazy numbers, and that's just going to make his price tag go up even more for whomever signs him the upcoming season. So he'll be there, and 9 times out of 10 he's going to ball.
On Dustin Kinner Show Facebook page, Shaw said, didn't the cap go up 15% this year? I'm going to keep going up. I think Shaw's on hold. We'll get to him in a moment, but I think we get that a lot when we're talking about contract disputes of, well, who cares? Teams should still pay them. The cap's going up. They have the room to do it and all this other stuff. The cap may be going up, but what's going to stay the same is the percentage of the pie. Like the quarterback is going to say, well, I'm only going to take 55, even though the team now has 25 million more to spend. I'm just throwing out a random number. I'm still going to get my 55. Now they have 25 million more to spend. No, the quarterback's going to say, oh, you have 25 million more to spend? Well, then I want 65. I want more of that. I want the same percent of the original salary cap. I want the same percent of the additional salary cap. And that goes the same for wide receivers and running backs and defensive backs. That's why that doesn't change. That's never, teams talk about it to a certain extent. That maybe helps them on the smaller contracts on the back end. It gives them more money on the back end, but it doesn't ultimately help them sign multiple big names or extensions because of that. I don't think that's going to have an impact on this at all. I just think it's going to lead to these guys saying, hey, you have the money. I want more of that money. There you go.
It's not going to help the Cincinnati Bengals, but it will help a team maybe like the Kansas City Chiefs, where they have their quarterback already locked up into a long-term deal years ago. And that's why I always say it's better to pay them now than to sit and wait and ultimately paying more, because other quarterbacks are going to get paid first, and then that price is going to go up. So we talked about it with Dak. We talked about it with Lamar. Like, oh, man, if you would have signed him, that first time, you could have saved yourself like $10-15 million. But now you got to pay it to him because other people have gotten paid after him or before him. So now you have to make him higher paid than them. So the salary cap going up, yeah, it's going to work out for some teams, but everybody's salary caps restrictions aren't the same. Well, their restrictions are the same, but their caps aren't the same because everybody has different players. Like, shoot, we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're paying their quarterback room less money this year than what they were paying Kenny Pickett last year. So they got more, quote unquote, money to play with because their quarterbacks are costing them like a couple $1 million a year, as opposed to $6-7 million that it did, and $15 million and $20 million in years past when they had with Big Ben. So everybody's going to have that pie. It's just a matter of who's it going to. And in the case of the Cincinnati Bengals, they have yet to start to pay, their quarterback that new contract money. So yeah, it's going up, but ultimately it's not going to help them.
You mean the quarterback that's the highest paid quarterback in the history of the NFL that took a team friendly discount like everyone told us was going to happen? What happened to that, by the way? What happened? What happened, Jamar Chase? I thought he cared about winning, which I'm here to tell you, I don't think that he doesn't care about winning. But I remember when Jamar Chase was doing that, talking about that, I was like, ooh, that's not going to be good. You're going to look like a fool. And he looked like a fool. But of course, Cincinnati media, they don't call them out for that because they fanboy media. That's what happens. But it was in the real market, they would have been called out for that. Just saying. Nonetheless, 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Mark Fetters in the Chatterbox chat says, pay T or trade him. Pay T or trade him. They're not going to pay him, and they're not going to trade him. I mean, they're basically just going all in for 1 year, right? Like, and I don't know what the right answer is here. Like, the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill and got by the way, you do have
yes,
okay.
I do. So they got
the T Higgins comp. This was the Jamar Chase comp.
Right. This is a first round pick, a second round pick, 2 fourth round picks, and a 6th round pick. So 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill: a first, a second, 2 fourth, and a 6th round pick.
So and that's been huge for them as far as keeping that. And that's the thing too. The Chiefs knew that was a big deal because so much money. And look, at the time, I think Patrick Mahomes at $45 million a year, and they're in talks to rebuild that contract to make him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, to surpass all the QBs that have been paid as of late, and rightfully so. But at that time, it was, man, we have to load up on draft picks. And not only do we have to load up on draft picks, but we have to draft and draft well, and we have to develop, and we're not going to be able to go out and plug gaps financially. We have to do it internally because of the money that we have, kind of put out there with our quarterback. And that's where the Bengals are basically at right now. That's why in an off season where fans were yelling at us saying we have 70 million cap space and blah, 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 and all this stuff, it was kind of an underwhelming off season. It wasn't as if they went out and just landed these big names,
right?
But kudos to the Bengals last year going out and getting, obviously the big offensive lineman, going out and getting some big names that way. They did. They took a lot of chances in the draft. They got some solid players in free agency, but they didn't go for any splash guys. They didn't go balls to the wall with their money as far as that's concerned, because a lot of that money they need for that rollover stuff, taking care of these bigger contracts when that time comes. But 518-1410, let's go to Jerry in Dayton. Jerry, thanks for holding. You are live, sir.
Oh, what's up, gentlemen?
Hey.
Curious, Kenner. You got the same problem with Amari Cooper right now, don't you? Isn't he pining for a new contract?
Yeah, he's going to get that contract too. Yeah. Look, he's going to be their number receiver, and he's going to be probably get up to that 25, 26 mil a year range, which is going to be pretty good. Look, is he Jamar Chase? No, he's not. Would I take Jamar Chase over T? Yes. But would I take Jamar Chase over Amari Cooper? Absolutely. But there's nothing wrong with Amari Cooper. I mean, he's led the AFC North in receiving yards the last 2 years. I mean, he's been more durable than the other receivers in the division. But yes, they are embarking on contract negotiations with him as we talk right now.
Yeah, because if you don't pay him, I don't think he's going to show up. You were talking about an athlete that would take a stand, maybe not show up, maybe sit out. I think Cooper has a chance to do that if you guys don't sign him. He's made a bunch of money in the league. Even if he doesn't play another snap, he's live. I think we're focusing on this issue with Cincinnati. I think you guys might have the same issue going on there in Cleveland. That's just mine.
But I also said this isn't an issue with the Bengals. I don't think T. Higgins, I don't think this contract dispute's I don't think it's an issue. He's going to play. Like T. Higgins is going to play. He's going to, hold out to, I think right now, contractually, technically, he hasn't signed anything, right. So he can't even participate in any of this stuff to begin with. So that doesn't matter. But no, I don't think this is an issue. I think that this is something that's being blown up to make it sound like the Bengals are having all these off the field or distractions. And man, it's been a hellacious offseason for the Bengals. They have a lot of really, really good players, and there's only so much money to go around, and everyone's trying to cut their spot in line to make sure they're taken care of. Hendrickson, people ripped on him for what he tried to do with that trade request not too long ago. Some of that was, okay, he knows they're in this dispute right now with T. Higgins. He knows that they're going to be, as soon as Justin Jefferson's paid and T's taken care of, whatever that means, then Jamar Chase is next. He's looking around saying, holy crap, what money's going to be left? So of course he had to kind of throw his temper tantrum hat into the ring a little bit, see what it would get him. Didn't get him much, and he showed up and he's going. But no, T's going to play. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think this is
Okay.
totally different with T. Higgins and Amari Cooper. Like he said, Amari Cooper has been in this league for quite some time and has cashed in multiple times. T. Higgins has yet to cash in. Like we got to think,
Right.
like from T. Higgins' perspective, going to his junior year in Clemson, projected as a first round pick. So he slides to the second round. So that's costing him money. This is his first opportunity to cash in. And he's
Right.
going to cash in, like maybe not as much as he was expecting, earlier, but like he's going to play because this money's out there. Like in the case of Amari Cooper, like he can play the holdout game because he already has a ton of money in the bank. He has cashed out
Exactly.
multiple times, cashed out from the Cowboys. So he's good. T. Higgins in, football world and athlete world, he's not good yet.
Yeah,
You know
these
what I
aren't
mean?
similar. These
Yeah.
aren't similar situations.
This
And-
is his first chance to do so.
yeah, and honestly, if you want to compare Amari Cooper's situation to anybody's, it's probably more like Trey Hendrickson's than anything.
Fair.
Because Trey Hendrickson, and kind of even not then, Trey Hendrickson, remember, he shot himself in the foot because he signed the damn deal a year ago. Like him and his
Yeah.
agent signed that deal. But the Hendrickson comp for me with the Amari Cooper thing is you have two guys who have outperformed the money that they're being paid. Amari Cooper, $20 million a year was a lot of money a few years ago for wide receivers. Now the Browns have a steal. All right, everyone said, oh, they wouldn't have any money. They wouldn't have any money. Well, they have one of the most, this is a receiver that's, the way he produces is right there at the top of some of the top wide receivers in football. He doesn't miss a lot of games. Again, it's led the AFC North in receiving yards the last 2 seasons, which has been huge for a team that's been, trying to balance not having, consistent quarterback play. So, yeah, look, we'll worry about that. I see what you're doing, Jerry. I see what you're doing. Just because, you couldn't figure out a way to win with Amari Cooper, your Raiders, you're going to try and stir the pot with the Browns. I see what you're doing.
We went to the playoffs with Murray Cooper. Stop it. Now, in terms of, here's one last point, and then I'm going to make a Reds point, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
Number one, are you sure Cooper's only going to sign for $25 million? You just acted like his agent. If he thinks the way you are, he may ask for 30.
Okay.
And
I might go to my boss and ask for 30. Don't mean I'm going to get it.
$1 million a year has been alive.
You should pay it. So, all right. I'd love to see you guys pay him $30 million. Be my guest. In terms of the Reds' problems, look, man, this all starts at the top. It ain't David Bell. It ain't even Nick Kroll. You know who the problem is. It's Castellini. It always has been Castellini. It always will be Castellini. They want to run. They're not in this to win games. They're in this to make money. That's it. Pure and simple. You heard the kids say it before the season last year. Where are you going to go? They have no intentions of doing anything but just getting by enough to make money. And that's the problem in Cincinnati. It's been the problem in Cincinnati and will be the problem in Cincinnati as long as those two own the team.
Well, Jerry, here, and Jerry, thank you for the call. We're going to get to this Red stuff in a moment. Look, I'm not a Castellini apologist, not by any means, okay? Not even a little bit. But at the same time, the Castellinis are the same ownership group that also changed their ways and agreed to make the changes necessary, starting in the minor league levels, the way they invested into the minor league level. Like we always think that, and I learned this from the Reds front office when we had our meeting with them 2 years ago when they were embarking on this rebuild. When we think of, funds to spend, we think of, the center fielder you're going to go buy or the starting pitcher you're going to go buy. A lot of it is some of that money that you free up, you're using it towards your scouting and towards your scouting department and going overseas and you're going to the Dominican and going on doing all these other things. Like that played a role in that too, changing how they approach their minor league system. All of that was the same thing with the Castellinis. They made sure that was going to be a change, and that change is what led to the youth movement last year. Everyone was getting so much credit last year. David Bell was in manager of the year conversations. Nick Kroll was just a baseball GM genius, right? The Castellinis have finally put the right pieces in place. And now this year, because of injuries and because things not going as well as last year, now all of a sudden David how to manage. Now Nick Kroll is the worst GM in baseball. Now the Castellinis are the same old Castellinis. That one's probably true. I don't know. But I've heard so many people just, David Bell last year when they were winning, when they weren't supposed to be a 100-loss team last year, winning all those games. Most exciting team in baseball with the youth movement and everything. David Bell didn't get any credit for that. But when they lose, David Bell gets all the blame for it. It doesn't make sense. I know yesterday I was criticizing David Bell yesterday because every old school baseball head I have ever talked to has told me one run games are on managers. So the 1-11 record in one run games, I put that on David Bell because those games are games that you are in. You have a chance to tie those, to win those. You had a lead, you gave it up. All of those, all those come down to managerial decisions. 1-11 and one run games. So those 12 games of the entire season, I am looking at David Bell for. The rest, this isn't a very good ball club, and I got duped. Okay, we all got duped, and that's okay. It was so fun last year, but so much for saving the Reds topic for later because I just let Jerry came in, got me all flustered, trying to stir the pot with the Amari Cooper stuff. I let him win, but we'll get back to the Reds. Make a point on that.
So I just more have questions about the Reds. Like, obviously, they're not playing well. They're in last place, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, the Reds, yes.
So it's May. June was like the hot month of last year, right?
Yep.
What's to say they don't get hot again in June?
And there's another Ellie De La Cruz in that system. But no, you are right. Like we're so fickle, man.
Right.
Like last year, David Bell was, that's all he needed was the right ingredients to make this 5 deal. As this year, tell me, man, is why I was from winning the division or contending for division to last place. But
so where were they at last year at this time? Were they this bad?
They're worse. No, they're worse this year than they were at this point last year.
Well, that ain't good.
But no, that ain't good. But so is what it is.
And I can tell like Reds fans are getting uber frustrated. So when I listen to the guys, Chatterbox guys earlier in the show, like I can sense the frustration. I mean, obviously no game last night, but like the eagerness for the game tonight to get things rolling. I mean, obviously you want your teams to win, but like also like, just from a sports show perspective, I mean, we need them to win. We don't want this thing to be over with. We don't look, I love list season more than other people on this show. But like, we don't want to start list season in May. And the reason we would start list season in May is because the baseball team isn't doing well. We need the baseball team to be doing well. And I always say this, keep us interested until the All-Star break. Keep us interested into the All-Star break. Hover around 2-3 into the All-Star break, and then whatever happens. That's long enough to get us to list season. That's long enough to get us to football and all that type of stuff. So, like for the Cincinnati Reds, this June is vital for them. It's vital for you and I. It's vital for the Chatterbox guys. I mean, I can only imagine what their Saturdays and Fridays and Sunday nights are going to be like when they have a 9:00 game versus the Padres or something like that, and they're sitting in last place. That can't be too much of a good time. I mean, it's only so long that you can continually bang on a bad product before like just like too much and it's too overwhelming, and then obviously people start to tune out, and we don't want you tuning out.
Kenner and Cat 1410 ESPN Radio. We are Dayton's radio home for Cincinnati Reds baseball. We got the Reds and the Padres coming up. 6:10 coverage begins. 6:40 first pitch. Andrew Abbott on the mound after a day off yesterday, looking to get the Reds rolling again. Can a return back to Cincinnati change the rhythm, if you will, of the Cincinnati Reds? It's been a month to forget. May 21st. This has been a horrendous month for the Cincinnati Reds, and this could be the month that basically blew everything up when it comes to expectations coming in to this year, no doubt about it. 518-1410. From T. Higgins to, we talked about the Jamar Chase thing, sprinkled some Browns hate in there too with the Amari Cooper stuff. Raiders fan Jerry called in. Our guy Shaw, I wonder if he's calling in with an update about Connor Stallions, the biggest cheater in the world. I wonder if they've been out golfing together, him and Shaw. Connor Stallions and David Shaw just out golfing together, It's been a while since he's called in.
Yeah, I definitely want to get his take on the Scotty Schefter situation as well, because he works at the golf course. So like how that whole thing operates when there's a major at the golf course.
You should say rules are the rules.
That's allegedly.
The cop says stop, you stop.
Allegedly.
All right, I'm just saying. Like, is it? No, we got a lot more coming your way. Kenner and Cap 1410 ESPN Radio 937-518-1410. Give us a call. And we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Off and rolling here on a Tuesday. So coming up, starting this week at Nishwitz Stadium, Kev, the Horizon League Baseball Championships, of course. 6 straight years where Wright State has hosted this. 6 straight years where they have won the league. And, well, looking for the trip to the NCAA tournament. And, when you have look, we've talked about Wright State has the best baseball program in the state of Ohio. I mean, it's not a homer take. I mean, you look at all the guys that continue to put in the majors. You look at Sean Murphy in the majors, obviously Peyton Burdick, who got traded from the Marlins or was picked up off waivers, I should say, from the Marlins, franchise over to the Reds or whatever. And you look at your Quincy Hamilton's about to be called up at some point. And, Jesse Schultz has, appeared in Major League Baseball. I mean, you look at just the continued dominance on the field in college, and then they're doing it with future pros at the same time. It's been pretty exciting, but they're going to be in action coming up this week. I got to do PA for all of these games coming up, starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday. By Friday, I'm a zombie. By Friday night, I'm a zombie. Saturday,
check the weather for you, man.
See, that's the worst part too. Is like started late. There was one year where it snowed and rained. And it was cold and it was hot. It was just a typical day in Ohio.
What we got? Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Thursday,
and
Friday.
Sunday?
Technically, it starts tomorrow, but yeah, Thursday, Friday. Wright State doesn't play till Thursday at 11 a.m.
76.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
79, 80, 74. You're good. Good.
Not bad.
Good.
Not bad. Alex Sogard adds, coach for the Raiders, adds his 4th Horizon League Baseball Coach of the Year award to his mantle. Again, it's the most in program history.
Wow.
So, you look at, Jeff Mercer's won it many times. You go down, Greg Lovelady's won it many times. Cooper's won it many times. So that's pretty impressive for Sogard, who kind of he's been able to sustain it to continue just to keep it rolling and, have a chance to see them in action coming up this weekend. There you go. 518-1410. We've kind of thrown a lot at you here this hour. No doubt about it. We talked T. Higgins. We talked the Bengals. We somehow got into the Reds a little bit because Jerry threw me off. I was going to say us, but me, because, I derail the show quite often.
So do I. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
But let's go to it's been a while. We got Mr. Shaw on hold. Shaw, thanks for holding. Welcome.
How you doing, fellas?
Good.
Where do we begin? I just golfed with Connor Stallions at the golf course, just letting you know.
Did you give him some cheating tips, huh?
No, he's made sure to tell me to give you the bird as usual.
Always taking the high road, that Connor Stallions,
Yeah, I mean it's just a bunch of crybaby nonsense as usual. But
I hate when I cheat, I get held accountable for it. Isn't that the worst?
On to more important things.
If only the NCAA would say that.
They have, but anyhow, 47 games in, 19 and 28, 8 games back. -7 run differential, 18th in the Major League Baseball. Do we want to blame David Bell for all of that? No. I don't think it is fair to David Bell, but here's my issue with not giving David Bell any blame at all. Wasn't this organization, fan base, and Justin Kinner and every other radio host / writer for the Cincinnati Reds giving the beef to David Bell the 5 previous seasons before this one? So we're just going to act like everything he's doing now is gospel? Nah, it don't work that way.
Kev, when did I say he was winning Manager of the Year?
I haven't forgotten. No, what?
I never said he was winning Manager of the Year. And I didn't bash him last year because that was a team that was supposed to lose 100 games, and they did pretty damn good last year.
And he was still doing things that were asinine and just made absolutely no sense. The same thing he's doing now. Same thing he was doing 2 years ago. Same things he was doing 3 years ago. But ultimately, my overall beef isn't even with David Bell. It's with Castellini, kind of like how Jerry said. I am sick and tired of watching this organization not wanting to pay money to put a winning product on this field. I'm tired of it. I'm 42 years old. This is supposedly the oldest franchise in baseball. They have 5 World Series championships, one of which since 1990. For those of you that don't understand that number, I was 8 years old. So some time has gone by. They made it in 95 and got swept by the Braves in the NLCS. Haven't made it to the NLCS since 1995. And all we have heard for decades and year after year after year after year is, well, next year's the year. We got guys at Dayton and we got guys at Louisville. Just give it another year, fans. We'll get it going. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Then the next year never comes. They are 22nd in team salary this year, $37 million below the median salary in Major League Baseball. $37 million. You couldn't tell me you couldn't have went and got a veteran bat or two this offseason? You couldn't tell me
they
you
technically
couldn't go
did. They just haven't really, produced.
I mean, a veteran
that damn
bat
David
that's
Bell,
worth
dude.
it, darn. Like I said, I went off of David Bell. I mean, I could rail him until you hang up the phone and say this phone call's over. But that's not the overall problem. That's not the overall problem with this team. Like, the injuries are part of it. David Bell stinking is part of it. Management, GM not doing his job is part of it. But overall, where does the money
Hold on.
come
How
from?
have the GM, how have these guys not technically done their job when the whole reason we're pissed off is because of what? This team not what? Living up to expectations. You have to have good players. How do you get good players? You have to acquire those good players. You have to have good scouting. You have to have good decision makers. Like, the whole reason that the Reds and us and all of us are pissed off and is ticked off is because we had expectations put forth by the talent that's on this team. So technically, there's people doing their jobs. They're just not doing their jobs, obviously in April and May right now. It sounds like I'm arguing with you to the point where I'm defending certain people in the organization, but at the same time, we can't sit there and say that this has just been complete trash, because the only reason we're ticked off is because there was expectations. You don't get expectations if you didn't make enough right decisions to put this team and fan base and put the rest of Major League Baseball on notice that this team had something to work with.
So after 38 years, it's our fault we put expectations on
What
this
does
team?
Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain and Spencer Steer and Christian Encarnacion Strand and all these guys have to do with the last 30-something years? This is about this pocket of guys right now, though.
See, and that's I'm sorry, but that's the loser mentality we get from Cincinnati all the
not.
time.
If you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they were a joke
team.
of the NFL for the longest time. They get Joe Burrow and bam, now all of a sudden they're one of the most respected franchises in the NFL.
And it's the same problem with the Bengals.
But they had to hit on the right guys, and now they're doing it.
No, they're not. They're not spending any money, and you've already said this all season,
who's not
they
spending
didn't
money?
go get the running backs. They didn't go get the offensive line. They went and got some offensive linemen, but they didn't get the defensive linemen that they need. Like, all of this window dressing is going to come out and come full in September and October when they don't have a running game and they don't have a defense that's going to stop anybody. So don't come at this like they've done something magical for the Cincinnati Bengals when they haven't. They do the same thing the Reds do, and the Reds do the same thing the Bengals do. They don't spend any money.
So, Shaw,
the 20, yeah.
So the I'm gonna say that the finish here, and it's 30 teams in MLB. Where would you like them to be? Top 15, top 10 in spending?
At least in the upper half. At least get somewhere near the median of Major League Baseball, not be 37 million below it, and then sit and get on airwaves of 1410 and 700 and go, oh, well, we were banking on our young guys to fulfill, and boo-hoo and boo-hoo. And then when all of a sudden this month happens, now it's we don't have any veteran guys in the lineup, and maybe we should have done something. No, any person worth their ilk would have been able to tell at the December winter meetings that, hey, we're going to need a couple veterans in this locker room to fulfill what we need and get these young guys to go to the next step and show them what the next step is. There's 2-3 guys that I had my eye on that the Reds should have got in December. And by the way, they would still be under, and they would, and it would have made. No, they want to go spend $12 million on some guy that's batting below the Mendoza line.
Real quick. So, big picture, traditionally, are they known for spending money? Absolutely not. I'm not going to argue that point. Okay, there have been some isolated incidences where the Reds have been willing to spend money. You go back to that 2019 heading into the 2020 COVID season where they spent a ton of money.
And then they broke it up the next year.
They broke up the next year because, again, it didn't work, right? But they spent the money. You said they didn't spend money. I'm telling you, hold up.
Work.
You
it
say
was COVID.
Eyes. We watched it. It was horrendous. They could. I mean,
What do
Jesse
you
Winker
think?
had an all-star first half of the season, and then he hit like close to a little over 200 the second half of the season. I had no problem moving on from him. You had Eugenio for
I have
five.
no
Suarez.
problem moving on with him either.
You know,
but why do you break up the whole pitching staff?
I mean, what Sonny Gray? I wish they would have kept Sonny Gray, but also embarking on a rebuild, which usually takes 2, 3, 4 years. Are you going to waste money on Sonny Gray for a bunch of pointless seasons when you were supposed to be losing 90 plus games?
Like the Reds are always rebuilding. That's my whole point. When will they ever just when will they ever
built?
Just push all their chips into the table and go, you know what, this is the year.
I agree.
The Royals,
Royals
have rebuilt. The Royals have rebuilt, and they're back.
But a year ago, we were saying the Reds were back.
But
a year ago, we were saying the Reds were back. A year ago, we were saying the Reds were back. And now this year, they're not back. And then if they play well in June, they're back. And then you'll still complain about something else. Like you'll continue to find things to complain about. Yes, because you just said they don't spend money. Then I pointed when they spend money. You said, well, how did that work out? And then you just keep moving the goalpost.
They spent the money in the 2020. My whole point was, why break it up in 2021 when you saw a condensed season?
It didn't
work. Did they make the playoffs?
2020 didn't count. I didn't count that.
So now we're not counting it. So again, why did you break it up?
It's a 60-game season. No fans were in the stands. 2020 was a damn nightmare.
So then bring it back and let it run in 2021. And
they did, and it didn't work.
No,
yes.
The pitching staff was gone. Trevor Bauer was gone. Sonny Gray was gone.
Sonny Gray was not gone until the following season. And they also had what's that?
I was listening to you.
Oh, that was nice. I wasn't used to that. Nonetheless.
All right.
But anyway.
Yeah, nonetheless is right is correct because I wanted Kev to ask me about the Scotty Scheffler thing.
All right. Go ahead.
Kev.
So what happens?
He makes good points.
What happens with that? So there's a major tournament at a golf course, and obviously the tragedy that happened where somebody lost their life, they got hit by a car or a tram or whatever the case may be. RIP to that person. Prayers up to that person. So obviously there's a heavy police presence when a golfer is, for lack of a better word, reporting to work. What's the protocol?
Mm-hmm. That's where the whole thing went to crap, for not a better word. Scheffler was told one thing. Apparently, the cops were told completely something different. So here's the issue. When a cop tells you something, you should probably listen. I don't care what your text told you. I don't care what your email told you. I don't care what you were on the phone. When a cop tells you to stop, you stop. He's the one in charge of the situation. He's the one in charge of the scene. That aspect of it, now, I believe Scotty for what he said. He was probably told that if he shows his badge, that he's going to be cleared and he's going to be allowed to let go. Well, that's fine and dandy, but you guys have press passes and you guys have all the other things.
Right.
How many times have you all been told that you got clear to go through somewhere, but yet you got stopped when you got there? You can't just continue walking through. Right.
I have a credential. Yeah, but you're not welcome here.
I wasn't going to mention it, but that I could only assume. But that's my and then everybody at the golf course that we've been talking about, obviously it was a hot topic on Friday and all that stuff. And everybody was coming to the defense of Scotty. I'm not bashing Scotty. I'm not. Like it completely stressful situation. I don't even know how I would like to think I would have reacted the proper way and yada, yada, yada. But you also know you're 2 hours before your team. As you said, Kev, you're showing up to work. You're showing up to do your job and doing your job, getting stretched, hitting golf shots on the getting ready to go, and you're getting ready to go play your second round of golf. So his mind is in probably 18 different directions all at the same time. But I'm here to just say that he's completely innocent of the whole thing either, because if he was completely innocent, don't you guys think this to let go by now?
Yeah. My biggest thing,
I do.
my biggest thing, and I don't know this, but like it just seems odd that he was driving himself. Like in my mind, at least, I don't I envision these guys having drivers.
You got the
to take
WNBA
them.
judging these guys now.
Yeah, let's just like you're just showing up in your car with your placard on there, like, hey, yeah, I'm ready to golf. I always thought like, oh man, obviously these tournaments don't happen in their hometown, so like they probably got drivers, staff members that's taking them there. He was literally driving himself to the golf course. I don't know this, but I just thought that was weird. That like he's punching it into his GPS and showing up to the course. I thought he would have like a driver, or Uber driver at least, or something like that. I just found that weird.
But NBA drivers or NBA players don't have drivers; they drive themselves to game.
Right.
Now, I can't say this for. I don't know if LeBron is opening up his garage door and checking both mirrors, putting his seatbelt on and back, and maybe he has a driver. But like, I don't think it's that. It sounded. I agree with you when I first heard that, but I'm like, but every other sport, more times than not, you're driving yourself to work. But you're saying it's not their hometown.
Yeah, it's not their hometown.
You're not driving yourself on the road.
Yeah, when you're on the road in the NBA, you ride there on the team bus. Like, I mean, but they don't have teams. They're by themselves. Their team is their group of guys. I just thought that like they would have a shuttle for the golfer, or he would have his own transportation. He wouldn't be driving himself. Like that's why I thought it was weird. And then I noticed. Go ahead.
On that same topic, where I'm kind of confused, most of those guys, the houses they stay in are actually on the golf course. They get verboed or whatever, and they wind up staying on the golf course. So my question is, and obviously I didn't know where he stayed, so I don't know, but if he was on the golf course, why could a golf cart just came and picked him up?
Well, it was raining, right?
Right. I mean, I get it, but you're going to be out there playing for 5 hours, so I don't know, and that's my whole thing. But it's just, the cam video not being turned on, that one's sketchy to me. Just all the defense for Scotty saying that the cop is wrong and he didn't do any and Scotty didn't do anything. I can't get on that either. Was it the weirdest story that I've ever seen in a PGA golf? I mean, it's Tiger Woods-esque, but Tiger Woods didn't happen the week of a tournament. He happened the week of Thanksgiving, and that was mainly his wife and a marital dispute. So it was weird because it was 3 hours before his tee time. Me and you aren't getting out of jail.
Right. I'm glad you brought that point up. He was booked. He was put in jail. They put him in the orange jumpsuit, the whole nine. Had my guy looking like a tangerine. Put the picture out there to the general public, but he still made it to the golf course in time. Amazing.
Yeah. And the funny part about that is we were just talking about that. How'd he get there? He got drove.
Bingo. I called in the paper.
Right. The whole thing, just like all of it, when you add it all up together as one whole big picture, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't get it. Like, I know probably yesterday, I mean, even starting Friday, but definitely yesterday since the tournament was over, there was all kinds of questions and like a whole discussion going on between golf course, Louisville PD, and there was probably a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, wondering how the ball got dropped on that so badly. That's the biggest thing, because like all of that stuff is like the month out. Like they were doing security stuff for this thing back in October and November.
Wow.
And getting all that sealed up as it was coming through. And you're getting all the gates and you're getting all this stuff coming up. And I understand unforeseen circumstances, and thoughts and prayers out to his family and all that. But I understand that's an unforeseen circumstance, but you can't tell me in the experiences I've been involved in with that stuff that those situations weren't talked about. Like there wasn't some type of game plan or something for that. And knowing how that, and then the communication between the PD and the golf course staff and the golfers themselves, there was definitely a lack of communication somewhere, and that's how it got botched.
And he was the only one to have that issue, and that's what makes it so like, wait, what is going on here? He's the only one that had this issue. I don't know. It's just super weird. I just don't know what to make of it. I mean, there's not a lot of breaking news that happens on a Friday at like 7:30 in the morning. So like to watch all the ESPN people on radio and on TV scramble around because ESPN in the morning that time of day, they're recapping what happened the night before. They're previewing what's going to happen in sports that night. But they're breaking news as it happens. You got reporters with videos. You got the police saying he's going to jail. I was texting Kenner like, yo, should we go Facebook Live and talk about this? This seems like a pretty crazy situation. It was wild.
Right.
Yeah, nobody saw this coming. Not even Connor Stallions.
No. Connor Stallions is in the college football game. Did you guys know?
Is he really? Wouldn't surprise me.
He is. Like they have a pre-snap thing on for the game. So if the Connor,
it tells you to play that
Stallions
the other team's going to run.
Shaw, buzz off.
Yeah.
Buzz off. You and your Connor Stallions. So get out of here, Shaw. Good hearing from you.
Yep.
Kind of.
Guys, have a good one. Go Blue.
Have a bad one. Ken and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. Chatterbox got their first taste of David Shaw now.
Shawski.
So there's that.
Wild, man. Wild.
It's not even. Yeah. That and like it's the number one golfer in the world. Okay. And number one golfer in the world shows up and gets arrested at a tournament. That'd be like Sunday mornings. We're doing our Sunday morning show, and you know how on CBS, all these channels, they'll have the QBs and the players walking into there. And imagine like, oh, wait, stop. Joe Burrow's been arrested.
Crazy.
It's that level. It is that like, because the more I thought about it, I'm like, it's a crazy story. But like the more you started thinking about it, LeBron getting arrested, walking in to Crypto Arena for a playoff game, which would be pretty wild if he was actually walking into arena for a playoff game right now. So that'd be a story itself right there. But like
no game tonight, Brian. Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
y'all may not have a game. I got a game.
Right.
So I know we got to go to break real quick. Like, do you think it's fair for people to say, well, he's the number one golfer in the world. They should have known who he was. Do you think that's fair?
No, because it's not like I'd recognize half these dudes. And, if I'm at Walmart, pass this dude,
right?
I'd be like, I don't know who that is off the top of my head. But in his defense, he didn't do the whole, hey, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Like, I'm just saying. So,
yeah, I think you can be the best.
Very humble.
You can be the best player in the world at your sport and still not be a known celebrity. I mean, I'm sure back in Tim Duncan, he got walked right past and people didn't know who he was, even though he's the best player in basketball at that one point in time. But you're not going to walk past Shaq or Kobe at that time and not know who they were. Like there's a aura to a player. There's a star power to a player that wouldn't Tiger Woods because everybody knows who Tiger Woods is. I'm not sure everybody knows what Scottie Scheffler's like. I mean, I didn't know who he was. I've heard the name, but like I would never be like, oh, boom, pick him out of a lineup. That's Scottie Scheffler. I'm not a golf guy, but I know who Vijay Singh is. I know who Tiger Woods is. You know what I'm saying? I know who Phil Nicholson is. Like I point those guys out. Couldn't point him out in the lineup until, he actually came out in the lineup in the orange jumpsuit.
Well, yeah. Look, Duncan too, but that's tall as he was. People would notice he's at least somebody.
Yeah,
I don't know who you are. By the way, this is coming from someone that's 5'7" and really short. Okay. I don't feel bad for tall people who say, man, it's really annoying. People ask me, you must be a basketball player. Aw. You know what? That's a much better, pre-snap judgment than, oh, that guy, he's not winning any dunk contests. His kids aren't going to be athletic. Oh, man, he wasn't good at sports. I mean, at least I would love to be tall, even if I had the same athletic career that I had at 5'5", 5'7", sorry, If I had let's say I was 6'5" and had the same athletic career I did at 5'7", okay, at least I would like to walk around knowing that people might think I was good at something. It really sucks being short, walking into a room, knowing everyone looks at you and says, that guy wasn't good at anything. That I don't feel bad for tall people who pull that. Oh, God, it's so annoying when they always say, oh, you must be a basketball player. You must be a crybaby. Get over it. Anyways, Kenner and Cal, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We'll be right back.
Got a ticket. One guy didn't. The same two guys drove home. One guy wore his seatbelt. One guy didn't. One guy made it home. The guy not wearing his seatbelt didn't. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has the best fast food fried chicken. Sure, it sounds like an opinion, till you hear that USA Today readers said the same thing. Get a taste of it with the Famous Favorites Variety Box. Available at a great low price. With 5 hand-breaded strips and 5 pieces of crispy golden bone-in chicken, it's perfect for feeding your whole crew. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
QC Kinetics provided amazing pain relief for a former professional baseball player, and you have access to the same life-changing treatments as retired Braves pitcher Jose Alvarez.
I put a lot of stress and strain and work on my right arm, but my right elbow took most of the damage with 3 surgeries.
Arthritis developed, and the pain was unbearable.
It wasn't just pain when I was trying to play sports. It was anytime I was moving the right elbow. It was pretty excruciating at times.
That's when Jose discovered QC Kinetics and the regenerative treatments that help the body heal itself, restoring damaged tissue and providing relief with no surgery or downtime. Jose's message to the medical professionals at QC Kinetics?
My elbow is feeling outstanding. Where were you 10 years ago, for crying out loud?
QC Kinetics is right here. Call for your complimentary consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325.
Save big money on your kitchen project at Menards. We carry everything you need to turn your kitchen dreams into reality. Renovate your space with new cabinets from Cardell. They're ready to install and come in a variety of styles. Visit our kitchen showrooms in-store or go to menards.com for free design estimates today. And don't forget to check out our weekly flyer for all of our hot deals going on now.
Save big money at Menards.
Did you know that looking at the world from a new perspective might make sense, but not when you're in your car? Make sure your vehicle's up to date, including your tires, so you don't end up looking at things upside down. Come see us at Carol Wirtz Tire. Bald can be beautiful, but not when it comes to your tires. Low, or worse, no tread on your tires is dangerous. It makes it harder for your vehicle to stop, leaving you prone to accidents. Come see us at Carol Wirtz Tire.
Urology Specialists of Ohio are here for you. Men, your good health is important to them. Their knowledge of specific male anatomy, prostate issues, and how to help in your healing is their main focus. Urology Specialists of Ohio are now accepting new patients at all locations: Beaver Creek, Springfield, Urbana, Xenia, and London. They have been in practice for over 20 years with over 80 years of experience between 5 physicians. Call today. They can schedule your appointment in a timely manner with little wait time. Online at urologyspecialistofohio.com.
Hey, let me tell you about the advantages of driving with my friends at Cordell Transportation. First of all, for the new year, they're offering brand new equipment to drive. They purchased new equipment, and not a lot of people could say that, but they've got it, and they're ready to roll with you. Cordell Transportation is offering an incredible $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months. If you're an experienced Class A CDL driver looking for excellent benefits, home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freights, then apply today online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
And we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Cincinnati Reds back in action tonight. They welcome in the San Diego Padres. Again, game 1, 6:40 first pitch, 6:10 coverage begins. And, of course, on the mound tonight for your Cincinnati Reds, Andrew Abbott, 19-28 on the season, coming off of an off day. So I couldn't remember what the Reds' record was a year ago around this time, and I thought someone answered it in the chat. Let me go back and find it. I can't find it. My apologies. And we're just going to sit on this for a second while I go back and waste time trying to read it nonetheless. But I think the record was pretty similar to this, but it did not feel as hopeless as what it does right now. Look, so I felt like I was talking out of both sides of my mouth in that argument with Shaw. I think we were both agreeing on things, but at the same time, not like big picture, the Cincinnati Reds have been a joke of an organization. I ain't going to deny that. I'm not going to argue that. I, of course, know that. But at the same time, what is the reason that we're all super pissed right now? Is because there was expectations. This was a team that was supposed to win the division. Okay? This was supposed to be a team that the youth movement was supposed to be a sign of that all the changes that the organization made, you know, in the minor leagues and everything else, that it was one of those things that was supposed to lead to changes on the major league roster. We thought we saw that last year, and we did see it. We saw them going more of the small ball route. We saw them, not 1 through 9 trying to hit the ball to the ballpark every single time. And it was, before that it was either a home run or a strikeout, and they were fine with that. Now it was about putting the ball in play. They were exciting. They were fun. You had good young talent, and we heard this all the time. They changed the dynamic in the minor league system to where they expected to win. You played in Chattanooga, you were going out there to play to win. All right, you played in Dayton, you were going out there to play to win. Louisville to win. And all of this was done so that you were still focused on developing yourself as an individual talent, but always having the mindset of when I step foot out on that baseball field, it's to win games. And we saw that last year. So does that mean they don't want to, that they don't know how to win? That change in the minor league system didn't work? Now they're all the doubt starting to creep in. We thought that they had righted the ship. We thought that everything was fine and hunky-dory, and that David Bell, he's always known how to manage, right? He just needed the talent to do so. Well, there's talent on this roster, but they're not playing talented. Will Benson was supposed to take a major step forward this year. He's taken 5 steps back, right? Like, obviously, Candelario had a much better stretch of weeks recently before. Tyler Stevenson's been one of the more consistent hitters, hasn't been as reliable throughout his career as what you would like him to be. Jonathan India's continuing just to make you scratch your head, saying that, this is the veteran of the group. We had Sam LaCure on the program last week, and we talked about that. Like, technically, these are 2, 3-year starters, or 2, 3-year, experience in the league. They're your veterans technically, but it looks like Tyler Stevenson and Jonathan India are still learning Major League Baseball. So if they're still learning how to play play at the Major League level, people want to bring up the injuries. Okay, Matt McClain being back, yes, that would definitely help. TJ Friedel being back, yes, that would definitely help. But look, coming into the season, the reason we had expectations for this team is because Spencer Steer, also a second-year player. Okay, Christian Encarnacion-Strand, also a second-year player. We can go down the list of all these second-year players. The same expectations we had for them as we did a Matt McClain and Friedel and others. It was to continue where you left off your rookie season.
Right.
And they've taken a step back. So we can't sit here and definitively say that if we had TJ Friedel and if we had Matt McClain, that things would be completely different. I don't know if they'd be completely different. And you listening or watching at home, you don't know if it would be completely different. I think there's a lot of question marks now. So here's where it's going to sound like I'm defending the front office. I actually like that Nick Krall did not spend money in the offseason, as wild and silly as that sounds. Because here's what would have happened. If you just assume that, and we talked about this on yesterday's show, if you just assume that your middle infield is set, you know who your third baseman is, you know who your shortstop is, you know who your second baseman is, so you know Christian Encarnacion's Strand's at first base, okay? You know who's at third, Ellie's your short, Matt McClain's at second, or Jonathan India's at second, whatever. It mix and match all those guys. You move them all around, right? Well, I mean, last year at this time, there was big concern because Matt McClain was actually, technically, he was getting votes at shortstop for the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
But Ellie's the shortstop. But it was McClain who was just dominating at shortstop, right? So, there was so much depth, but you didn't know what you had. You know what you potentially have, but you don't know what you had. So you don't make definitive off-season decisions based off of not even a full season's worth of data from rookie players who, if Jonathan India is a prime example, former rookie of the year, and people want him off this team years later. So Jonathan India, after his rookie season, that was a bright spot. We thought, man, we have something special in Jonathan India. The sky's the limit. And now you want to boot him to the sky. You don't want him around. How do you know we're not doing the same thing with Matt McClain, Spencer Steer, Christian Encarnacion-Strand? Love my guy, Ellie. He's at least been the star that we anticipated. Keep going down the list. So the Reds front office, whether you want to believe me or not, or whether you want to actually think this or not, or give them credit or not, What they're thinking is we were supposed to be a 100-loss team last year. Just because we showed signs of progression, we can't veer away from the plan ahead. If they were that 100-loss team last year, do you think that they were going to spend a lot of money this past offseason? Spend it for what? We have way too many holes to fill. We're going to spend money for what? Just to appease the Shaws of the world, who's not even a Reds fan, by the way. We're going to appease him? No, you don't just spend money to spend money. You could say, well, the Reds, if they spent money, they could put a contender on the field. You know how much money they would have to spend to put a contender on the field when they had so many holes, at least we thought, heading into last season? So this season, you thought you had a third baseman. You thought, well, they do have a shortstop. You think you know who your second baseman is. You think you know who your first baseman is. You think you know who your catcher is. Tyler Stevenson's so up and down, you never know. We went from last year to we have so much depth in the middle infield to outside of Ellie, I don't know what the hell we have. Well, we have Matt McClain. We thought we had Spencer Steer, who knows in the outfield. But, we thought we had Christian Encarnacion. We thought we had a lot of these guys. The bottom line is if the Reds would have spent money on positions that they thought that they needed because they were good elsewhere, now you have bad contracts with a bunch more holes to fill, and now you're just spending money to spend money. I actually don't mind that the Reds did this. We had Hal McCoy on the show after the season concluded last year, Kev. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I said, is this going to be one of those where they get too excited and see all the progression from these rookies and say, all right, we're going to go add veteran. We're going to go spend money and go for it all. If you think you're mad now, imagine if they did go get a bunch of all-stars and try to plug gaps. And now you have a bunch of, 2 all-star caliber outfielders, and you have, even bigger names in the bullpen, and you address some of these holes. And then all of these guys take a step back. Now you spent all this money. Now you're pissed off. Now you have nothing. Either way, the Reds were in a lose-lose situation. You spend money. This isn't a playoff team this year. They didn't spend money. Guess what? They're still not a playoff team this year. But if you really want to know what I think that we actually have gotten more answers from this team this year than we anticipated. We now know this team's not as good as we thought. Right. We now know that we need to see more before. I need to see more from Steer. I need to see more from McClain. Steer not in the lineup again today, dealing with more injuries, by the way. I need to see more from these cats before I'm comfortable with the Reds spending a ton of money to build around them. How do we know that these are the foundational pieces to build around? So that's where, in an isolated situation, I am completely fine that the Reds did not spend money in the outfield, because technically, if this team did if Steer and everyone else played up to what they did last year, this would be a playoff team. This would be a team contending for the division. This would be a team wouldn't be looking at their wild card dreams slip through their fingers in the month of May. So if they're doing their job, if India and Stevenson do their job, okay, it's a much different story. And we're not talking about the moves they didn't make in the offseason. We're talking about how great everyone on the roster. We're getting mad at the wrong people. We're mad at the people that aren't on the roster instead of being upset with the people that are. And the bottom line is the guys that, even without McClain and Friedel and these guys, we still should be getting more from Spencer Steer. We still should be getting more from Christian Encarnacion Strand. We still should be getting more from Jonathan India and Tyler Stevenson. Like, we're mad at all the wrong people. And I'm not saying to hate and bury these guys by any means, but these guys are to blame. The players on the field are to blame, and I'm not in an aggressive way, but they need to be held accountable too. You are lazy as a mofo if you say David Bell's why Christian Encarnacion Strand isn't taking those steps forward. That's lazy. And this is the guy that really started my radio career just doing nothing but bashing David Bell. So there you have it, Kev. I just think that everyone's frustrated. Everyone's saying how bad this organization is, when the only reason we're angry is because we had expectations. And the only reason we had expectations is because of the great moves that the front office made, prior to that. So it's a weird situation. Reds fans, everyone's misdirecting their anger and frustration.
Yeah, so I pulled up last year's results. They were 0-1 in March, 12-15 in April, 14-13 in May. So that's what, 26-29 through May. And they're what right now?
They're 19-30, whatever. I'm pulling it up now. Hold on. 19-28. 29 after tonight.
Definitely got their work cut out for them to end the month how they were last season.
So what, real quick, they were what last year?
26-29.
26-29 last year. And we're wrapping up the month of May. I mean, they're 19. I mean, they've taken significantly major steps backwards. And I don't, they've played some of the toughest competition. Well, that just means they can't be good teams. That just means they're not a good team.
For me, like, it's the same thing that goes on in the NFL. Like, well, we play a tougher team. Like, it's the pros. They're all tough. Like, they're all trying to win games here. And the records or whatever. But, like, so they play tough teams. Like, so what? So what? What does that have to do with anything? This isn't college football or college basketball where, like, there's a long season. You can try to figure your things out. Like, we don't care because at the end of the day, the results are the results. So you're looking at last year's June at 18-9, like, they got their work cut out for them to even remotely get back to where they were last year, and to expect them to pull off another 18-9 month is a lot. It's definitely a lot. Then July 15-11, August 10-17, September 13-13, and just 0-1 in October. So, like, it's kind of like what you talked about last week's show. Outside of June, they were a 500 baseball team.
So, real quick, good point here from Scott. So you brought their record in May last year. Their record at this time last year, same record.
Oh, at this exact time?
Exact same time.
Okay.
Yes. So I was with you. So Scott, where did he go? See, we got it. Hold. Scott Campbell. Shout out to Scott Campbell again. We're live on the Chatterbox Sports YouTube channel. Chime in your opinion there. We're interacting with you there. Scott Campbell says 19-26 at this time last year. 26-29 through May.
Yeah.
So at this point last year, same damn team or same damn record. That's why I don't always agree with you are what your record says you are. I mean, wasn't this a much different feeling 19-win team last year than at this time? But this time everyone hates this Reds team this year. The same win total as last year at this point. It's just wild. Expectations. And that's a good thing to have. Having expectations is a good thing to have. But it also makes it painful when you don't live up to those. If they would have lost last year like they were supposed to, it sucks, but no one's angry. Everyone's just accepting it at this point. But this year, no, we're not accepting it. We're angry when it's all said and done. So we'll see.
Time to turn it around.
And maybe that happens tonight. Scott's, he's confident. And Roger says, shout out to Scott. Yes, shout out to Scott's holding it down today. But Scott saying advantage Reds, the Padres coming off a doubleheader yesterday. So there you go.
The dads.
There you go. Chad Kinser. What up, Chad? He's on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. He says, all I know is I'm about to start paying more attention to that team in Cleveland. Kev, I may need some help knowing your team more.
Let's go, man. Well, Stephen Kwan, he's on the IL. He's not going to be playing for a while.
You were just ready.
He's not going to be back. Damn. And you know what? You talk so much about the City Connect jerseys for the Reds. I love the City Connect jerseys for the Guardians, but there's a major problem that I'm having. I already have a Jose jersey. I have the red Jose jersey. They only have the Jose and they have Bieber in the City Connect. Like, Bieber's not going to be playing for the Guardians next season, so I'm not about to drop $200 on a guy that's not going to be playing for us next season. So
I forgot you guys lost him to start the season.
Yeah,
and that's the cat you're without and still doing what you're doing.
Yes. So I need a Stephen Kwan. I need a Tristan McKenzie. I need a Naylor, somebody to drop those in the City Connect for the Cleveland Guardians desperately.
Chad Kinser also says, he's desperate. He says the Reds just need to hire the sign stealing guy from Michigan. They need to bring in a guy from the Blue Man Group to teach them how to bang on trash cans. He's going on and on. Philip Reed, he's laying in. Again, these comments are coming from the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. Philip Reed, big David Bell fan, by the way. Says David Hell, he calls him, not David Bell. So mean. David Hell is below 500 as, for the years he's been there. Get rid of him and the hitting coach. Start there. Get rid of him and the hitting coach. Not the bad hitters. The manager, right? And I'm not advocating to get rid of the hitters. I'm not advocating to get rid of anybody. Just stay realistic. This is year 2 of the call-up of these guys. Now, so on the other side,
I applaud your patience.
Mark Fetters in the chat on the Chatterbox Sports YouTube page. Mark Fetters says no influx of young players coming up this year, though. But that's the thing.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
But the players that they were excited about last year are the players that are on the roster this year. So
is it unfair to expect them to take a big leap? Because obviously baseball is totally different from football, but we see this in football all the time where, you talk about this. Rookies come in from college ball and they're star impact players. We see this all the time as well. A big leap from year 1 to year 2. Like, can't tell you how many articles I read from the Pittsburgh Steelers about the leap that they're expecting Joey Porter Jr. to make. And he was, potentially defensive rookie of the year last year. Like, how much of a leap are you expecting? So is that fair for us as fans to expect a huge leap out of second-year guys in baseball?
Vegas was telling us this coming in. Remember, we were pissed off of Vegas.
What do they know?
They had a lower win total than last year, according to Vegas. What do they know? Remember, they added Candelario, dude. Like, they had a Martini.
Another building went up.
Make it a double at this point. I mean, my gosh. So, to your point, no. And this is why when I had Ben Verlander on, when I had Tim Kirkshin on, when we had any baseball guy on the show, I kept asking, I kept saying, is it fair to be a little skeptical due to so many rookie players last year heading into their second year? We saw it with Jonathan India, the second year, they stumble in the year 2, the sophomore slump, if you will. No. And I'm not bashing any of these guys I had on there. It's Tim Kirkshin, Ben Verlander. These are Hall of Fame dudes. I ain't questioning it. But everyone said no. And I'm like, but how? How can we guarantee why are we so lucky? The team that has never had any luck. If we didn't have bad luck, we'd have no luck at all. How is the team that has never had any luck? I mean, Ellie might be the best thing that's happened to them in decades. And that includes coming off of a Hall of Fame, future Hall of Famer in Joey Votto. Ellie's just something different and special, whatever. But man, oh man, no, that's a fair question. The expectations, it's easy to say now, though, they were too high coming in. But it doesn't matter. The expectations coming in, and by the way, you could talk about Tim Kirkshin's expectations and Ben Verlander and the outside noise expectations. But when we sat at Reds Fest, and I tell you this all the time, regardless of people's opinion of Stephen A. Smith, one piece of advice I've always taken from him was, people get mad at me about my takes on teams all the time, but anytime he sits down with a general manager or a coach before the season begins, he says, your expectations for this season are what? And then that's his bar for how he assesses that team all season. We talked to Nick Kroll. We talked to the general manager. We talked to David Bell. Everyone. Win the division, make the playoffs. So this is a failure so far. They have failed so far. But to be fair, their team's in first. Your team has not won the division.
Right.
They're in first. The Reds have not lost the division. They're in last. There's a lot of baseball left to be played. But do the math. The math ain't mathin'. The Reds would have to finish 20 games above 500 the rest of the way. Where's that coming from? Just to get to the 85, 86 win marker. Where's that coming from? So I'm not being a hater. That's just common sense. The math ain't mathin'. Oh, yeah. Anyways. Kinner and Cav, 1410 ESPN Radio. Mouse Cop on YouTube says 6 seasons since Bob bought the Reds have they finished above 500. 3 of those have been Bell, but he gets all the fans' frustration since 2006. So David Bell's been responsible for 3 of the better seasons. I mean, look, this all goes back to, and I'm winning this war, because as much as I like David Bell, I said when the Reds fired Dusty and everyone wanted Dusty Baker gone, I said, I can't wait for everyone to eat crow with this Dusty Baker. They have not been the same since Dusty. Simple as that. I like David Bell. I've changed my tune on David Bell. I've just realized that the way baseball's managed today, the manager has less and less to do with the game today than it ever has. So he didn't get this was Sam LeCure's point when he was on the show last week. When they were winning last year, no one said, man, David's killing it with this group. It's, man, Ellie and Christian Eckert, Matt McClain, Christian Eckert, Spencer Steer. And then when these guys start regressing, it's, what the hell, Bell? Like, it's wild. It's like the head coach quarterback in the NFL. When you win, you get all the praise, you get all the hate, you get all the blame, nonetheless. Kenner and Cap, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Nonetheless, we'll be right back. Nonetheless, Shaw. Ugh. Oh, yeah. Ron Howard says, go Browns. Hey, by the way, Ron did make it funny a little bit ago. Hold on, where to go?
Ron.
When we talked about Scheffler not having a driver, Ron's like, yes, he did. He had a driver. Kentucky State Police. Whatever, Ron. We're gone. We'll be right back.
It's
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Kenner and Cab, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We welcome you back. Happy Tuesday. So, interesting, Kev. Major League Baseball is officially investigating gambling allegations against Ohtani's close friend and longtime teammate. So this has just come out recently. David Fletcher, Major League Baseball is looking into former Angel David Fletcher. And, you know, earlier you were talking about the Shohei Ohtani thing. I'm very surprised. Like, I thought when this stuff broke before the season, I thought it was going to be big time news. And it felt like it for a very short amount of time, and then it just kind of went away. And you could say, oh, that his name's been cleared and all this stuff, this, that, and the other. But, I mean, I think we are all, where there's smoke, there's fire kind of people, right? And there's just no way that there are this many coincidences. Okay. So the fallout from, and this comes from Front Office Sports, by the way. And so it says the fallout from Matthew Boyer's alleged illegal bookmaking operation isn't quite over for Major League Baseball. The league said Monday that it has opened an official investigation into gambling allegations surrounding David Fletcher, who is a former Angels player and close friend of Shohei Ohtani, who is now in the minor leagues. ESPN reported Friday that Fletcher and his close friend Colby Schultz, another minor leaguer, had placed bets with Boyer, the same bookmaker used by Ohtani's former interpreter. Now, some of Schultz's bets included Angels games in which Fletcher played, while Fletcher bet on sports excluding baseball, according to ESPN. So, once again, way too many coincidences. Now you have another Angels player who was also in touch with, so let me get this straight. So Ohtani's interpreter this guy was placing the same bets with this guy. Like, there was no rumblings behind this. Teammate of Ohtani's, who's supposed to be a close friend, wasn't saying, hey, by the way, maybe he couldn't. Maybe he needed the interpreter there to pass along that message. I have no clue. Okay, I have no idea. No really idea. But look, I'm not losing sleep over this by any means, but I am just surprised at what makes a headline and what doesn't. What makes a story take off the way. This had the face of Major League Baseball. And where there's smoke, there's fire, but nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. But maybe this is done by design, to be honest with you.
I think this just has everything to do with it's Major League Baseball and not football. Like, the guys that got caught using betting apps, like Jamison Williams from the Lions.
Yep.
That got more burn. Calvin Ridley, when he used the apps, he got suspended for a year, right?
Yep.
That got more burn than this has got. I think it's as simple as we say we care about baseball. We care about our teams in baseball, but overall, we care about football way more. Like, if this was a football player, this would be all over the place. If this was a basketball player, it would be all over the place. I think that this just shows that baseball is just a lower tier sport that we just, it's on in the background. We really don't care about, because this hasn't been a big deal. Hasn't been a big deal on the networks. It hasn't really been a big deal on social media all like that. I mean, if this was happening in football, there would be memes. And I know people don't care about memes and think, oh, memes are just jokes. Yeah, they're jokes, but they're jokes because people care and people find it interesting. And if it's going to create a buzz, this isn't creating any buzz. Like, the first time it came around, yeah, it created some buzz. It was there. People were talking about it, but this is the second time and people are just on to the next thing. Like, people are not even paying attention to what's going on with this. Like you said, where there's smoke, there's definitely fire, and MLB is going to need to do yet another dive into what's going on. And obviously their biggest guy in baseball, the best player in baseball, is attached to another situation. That's not good.
So now with this too, you talk about the NFL, Calvin Ridley, he was a very, very good wide receiver, still very good, but a big name wide receiver that was a perfect pawn for the NFL to get the attention of everybody. We're going to suspend him for a year.
Yep.
Calvin Ridley's suspended for a year. I mean, that was such a huge deal. That was big time, right? So then that, a great year for the Falcons. I mean, keep in mind, Julio Jones was at the top of the mountain, right? And then this Calvin Ridley dude was all of a sudden kind of surpassing him a bit. And then Calvin Ridley's out for the year, and then he gets traded to the Jaguars, and then all this stuff happened. But it was like the NFL could use Calvin Ridley to get everyone's attention. Like, hey, we're suspending him for the year. Whoa, that's big. That's a big name, right? Look at the NBA. The brother of, why am I forgetting his name? Porter.
Michael Porter Jr.
Porter Jr. So
his brother, yeah.
That's not a big name, but also it is one of those things where basketball, like when you heard how he was going about altering the same game parlays, the in-game parlays using, his numbers or, whatever, oh, I'm sick this game, or, the rebounding numbers, the points coming up short, all this fun stuff. Like that's interesting too, because I had to go look. I had no clue who the hell Fletcher was.
Right.
I think that goes to your point. Again, we're talking about minor league players. There's another minor league player. Now they're friends with Shohei Ohtani, this, that, and the other. But yeah, I'm very surprised that this still is not being talked about as much as the others. But we'll see.
We'll see.
And keep in mind, I don't think it's because baseball's not as popular as the other two. Banging on trash cans dominated the news cycle for months, almost a year, right? Like that was a big deal. The sticky tack on baseballs dominated the headlines for months when teams were cheating using that, right? Like, so, and I've said this before, scandals make baseball mainstream. I said, every time baseball is mainstream, every time baseball is front and center, top of the page headline is some kind of scandal. Whether it's a betting scandal, whether it's steroids, whether it's sticky tack, whether it's the trash can banging, sign stealing debacle, right? Like every time baseball is front and center, it's never for the right reasons. It wasn't for the, when I grew up, it was Barry Bonds' home run record, right? It was always the records that were being broken. It was always but baseball anymore, and it pains me because I love baseball, but if it doesn't bleed, it's not leading. If it doesn't bleed, it won't lead. That's Major League Baseball right now. So maybe baseball's hoping something. I don't know. But either way. Kenner and Cav, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube.